Hello, today we're going to be talking about the Outlaw, which is the semi-automatic sniper rifle that's been added to Valorant, or it's going to be added in like the next 2 days. It's pretty crazy to have a new gun. Honestly, in Valorant, it's been 4 years almost since the game was released, so it's actually quite crazy to actually. I didn't think we would actually get a new gun. To be honest, I thought the agents might have been enough, and we might get tweaks to the current existing guns, but I didn't think we'd ever get a new one. So I kind of like that we've got a new one. I'm not sure exactly what I feel about the Outlaw, but it's a semi-automatic sniper rifle, has 2 slugs in the magazine, has a longer reload when you've used both bullets compared to just one, and it costs 2.4k credits. So this is probably one of the biggest things about it, along with the damage. So the damage is 238 to the head, 140 to the body, and 119 to the legs. So the most notable things about this is that it only does 1 less damage than the operator does to the legs. So that means that this gun doesn't get punished as much for the leg shots because you can shoot 2 shots. So you can shoot them both in the legs and you'll still get a kill. That might change. I imagine that this might actually be lowered to below 75, so it doesn't kill full armored targets with both leg shots. But I don't know 100% if that will actually be the case. For instance, the Marshall does 85 in legs. But the thing is, the Marshall and the operator, even though they do have like times where they need to do the bolt. They can still not reload. They don't have to reload in between shooting. The Marshall actually can reload every single time it shoots, by the way, which is pretty crazy about the Marshall. You basically have an endless mag, but this gun is like the complete opposite. So it has like a very limited mag. So in some ways, they just don't want to create pain points. I think where you shoot both bullets, you hit both bullets into the legs, and they still don't die. But I think that's a part of Valorant. So I think it's quite weird that this is not lower than 75 damage. In my opinion, at least. The body shot 140, so this is clearly aimed to be like the half armor operator, like the Marshall's the eco operator, the operator's the operator, and this one is basically the half armor operator. So it's going to deal enough damage to one-shot people in the body when they have half armor. Personally, I don't like it because I always buy half armor in ranked, basically, unless we have enough money. So unless I'm like 6k, then I always buy half armor. So this kind of annoys me that this could exist now. It's going to make my solo queue worse. Or at least I'm going to have to rethink. Like, I'm actually going to have to think when I buy half armor now, which is quite annoying. Probably won't prioritize buying it that much anymore because a lot of people are going to be using this gun when it first comes out, especially. But yeah, it just gives an option. So you want to be thinking with this gun. There is definitely ways to think about this gun. It's not just one that you can like buy and it will work, right? You actually have to think about how you want to use this gun. Which I think, to me, makes this gun a good addition to the game. I think if they just added like a general all use case type gun to the game, I wouldn't really care that much. But this gun is actually kind of like interesting in the way you have to like kind of use it in some ways. And that's why I do think the leg shots need to be lower damage, as well as that I think there just needs to be more thinking about this gun in general. So I see it kind of as like a range shorty where you have position, you can put yourself in a position and mechanically, especially with this gun, you need to be better mechanically to get 2 kills with it in one mag. The shorty can obviously put themselves in positions to get those 2 kills. This gun is also, technically the same. It can put itself in a position to get 2 kills in the mag. But I think that the shorty has a real drawback in the fact that it's a shotgun in and of itself, where it will have to be up close and puts itself at risk to get like killed before it gets those kills, basically. And traded very easily. Where I think this gun doesn't have that built into it because it's a sniper rifle, so you can be quite far back and you can use cover a lot more effectively. When you can kind of pick your fights more when you've got a range advantage or at least some range where you can kind of play around cover a lot easier. So I think that it doesn't actually have that same drawback in some ways that the shorty does. So this gun could easily get 2 kills, run into cover and reload, and then try and get another kill, potentially get a leg shot and things like that, right? It can actually have a lot of value. But I do think like when it's not playing against when it's playing against full armor as well, I do think that it is still quite a menace to deal with. Even like chip damage, like for instance, like 10 chip damage will then kill a full armor on a body shot, and even on a leg shot, 6 damage will kill on a leg shot, right, against half armor. So imagine like a Sova shock hitting you for like 10 damage, and then you're dying to a body shot from one of these, right? So it's basically an operator now. Like, I think this gun is pretty good numbers wise. And I think that it just needs to be brought down a tiny bit, just to like make it a bit more situational than it currently is. I think it's a tiny bit better than what it should be, but I kind of prefer them doing it this way, making it better than it should be, and then kind of bringing it back down later, because then it gives people like the chance to kind of use it and get used to it, and kind of get to a point where they kind of like it. And then when you bring it down, there's still gonna be players that retain playing it, right? And that's kind of like a good way for like agents as well. It's like agents really, really strong. If you make an agent really, really strong on release, and then you slowly start to like nerf them down, then the players are still going to retain playing it, similar to what was what happened to Jet overall and what happened to Chamber in some ways. Is that there's still players playing it. If you release them in that state, they're never going to get played. I've got the Bulldog and the Guardian up here as well, because I want to talk a bit about the price as well, which I mentioned earlier. So the price is 2.4k credits, which puts it in a very, very weird position, because it's competing with the Bulldog and it's competing with the Guardian. And when it's competing with these two guns, for me, the Guardian and the Bulldog are pretty all-purpose type guns. The Guardian less so than the Bulldog. The Bulldog is surprisingly good in a lot of circumstances, right? You can actually kind of argue that aiming in with the Bulldog is very similar to having like a Marshal or an Operator, where you can just hold an angle. You aimed in, holding an angle, and then you press left click when they come around the corner, and if you land a headshot, they most likely die. Like, obviously, but that's like very Marshall-esque compared to in comparison compared to the Operator. But yeah, the Guardian's the exact same, right? Obviously this has like high pen, this has medium pen, so it's not quite as good. But the Bulldog has its like two purposes where it can go full auto as well. The Guardian obviously is still accurate when you're like no scoping with it essentially. So it still has like that kind of purpose to it. It's still possible to use it in a lot more circumstances than what you would argue the Marshal and the Operator could. So then this gun, the Outlaw, I'm not sure how well it competes with these two guns. I think it has a clear advantage when the enemy has half armor. So if you can find the rounds when the enemy has half armor, then I think that it has a clear advantage over these two guns. More so, it has an advantage over the Guardian than it does so the Bulldog. I think the Bulldog has way too many good use cases, and even then, if you use it in the same situation, if you go for a headshot with the Bulldog, you're still killing half armors if you land a second bullet. So I do think like it's like the Bulldog is still, I think, better slightly than this gun, as it just, I think, overall is a bit more rounded, and like better in like a general amount of situations. But I do think that the Outlaw is a good like addition to the game, because it adds like another way to play certain situations. So for instance, a situation you might want to use the Outlaw in is if you're on like the third round, right, and you died on the second round, and you won the first round, so you're on a bonus right now, but you died. What you can do is you can just buy the Outlaw. You can obviously team make some bonus, or you can maybe like brought one through it as well. Like basically having the Outlaw on the third round in some capacity, right, buying it or whatever. There are a lot of players, especially in this is more appropriate for solo queue, and obviously against certain teams. Some teams like to just like buy a lot of light armor in general, or like because lack of phantoms, everyone buying vandals, so they buy a half armor to save money. This gun can sort of stop that from being a good play to make, because it can punish that. So on the third round, going back to my example, a lot of people like to buy on the second round, even if they lost, and then they'll buy half armor with their vandal or their phantom on the third round. And the Outlaw punishes that, right? It punishes that. Basically, you have an Operator in your hands versus them. And one more thing I do want to clarify as well with the comparison to the Bulldog and the Guardian, is that the 2 bullets in the chamber is therefore a clear drawback, that I already explained with the shorty. With the shorty, and that I think it can stop you from getting obviously multi-frags past 2. So you need to make sure you are thinking about the situations you put yourself in, very similar to the shorty. And the Bulldog, obviously, the Bulldog and the Guardian don't have that as much. So yeah, those are like the more comparable guns to this gun, as well. Obviously, it's comparable to the Marshal and the Operator for damage reasons and use case, like the way you're using it, you're aiming in and holding angles, as well. And that's kind of it for the video. This is it in action as well. So yeah, that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in my next one. Goodbye.